Now, I'm doing the Finalists series, and this is a bit of a deviation from the Finalists series I've been doing. 1968, the NHL heads into the playoffs. We've got an expansion division. So you have the 6 original teams, known better as the original 6. You have 6 expansion teams. St. Louis was third in that division. They had 27 wins, 31 losses, and 16 ties. They were not a very solid team, but they did get to the Stanley Cup final. Let's discuss how they got there. They play Philadelphia in the first round. Remember, they're a lower seed. They win 1-0 in Game 1. They lose Game 2 4-3. They win Game 3 in double overtime, 3-2. They won 5-2, lost 6-1, lost 2-1 in double overtime, meaning they blew a 3-1 series lead and won it in 7 with a 3-1 win over those Flyers. And of course, the Flyers would be the first expansion team to win a Stanley Cup, which would be in the mid-70s. Minnesota was their challenge in the second round. Minnesota, they beat them 5-3 in Game 1. They lost Game 2 by a score of 3-2 in overtime. They lost Game 3 5-1, meaning they were down 2 games to 1 in the series. They won Game 4 4-3 in overtime. They won Game 5 3-2 in overtime. They lost Game 6 5-1, meaning they had a 3-2 series lead, and they blew it. They won 2-1 in overtime in the 7th game. So it took them 14 games to get through 2 rounds, those Blues, to get to the Stanley Cup final. And right now, as we speak, the Vegas Golden Knights have made it through 3 rounds in 15 games. So there's a bit of a difference here. In the finals, they play Montreal, and every game is a loss, but every game is by 1 goal. 3-2 in overtime, 1-0, 4-3 in overtime, and 3-2. Leading the way in scoring, in 18 games, Dickie Moore had 7 goals and 7 assists. Frank St. Marseille had 5 goals and 8 assists. Larry Keenan, 4 goals and 5 assists. Jerry Melnick, not Larry or Eugene Melnick, 2 goals and 6 assists. Red Berenson, 5 goals and 2 assists. Barclay Plager, 2 goals and 5 assists. Gary Sabarin, 4 goals and 2 assists. Terry Crisp, yes, that Terry Crisp, 1 goal, 5 assists. Jimmy Roberts, 4 goals and an assist. Bill McCreary was not refereeing this series. He was playing, 3 goals and 2 assists. Doug Harvey, 4 assists in 8 games played. Tim Ucklestone, goal and 2 assists. Bob Plager also had a goal and 2 assists. Ron Schock, goal and 2 assists as well. And Al Arbour, yes, that Al Arbour had 3 assists in this series. Al Arbour's in the Hall of Fame as a coach, not for his playing. Doug Harvey, Hall of Fame. Dickie Moore, Hall of Fame. And a net Hall of Famer, Glenn Hall, 8 wins, 10 losses, 2.44 goals against, and a .916 save percentage. This is before the live puck era. This is when goal scoring was a little bit less than what we'd see in the 80s. So what did they run up against in the 1968 Montreal Canadiens? These are the Hall of Famers: Jean Beliveau, Yvon Cournoyer, Dick Duff, Jacques Lemaire, Jacques Laperriere, Serge Savard, Gump Worsley, Rogie Vachon, and even though he was towards the end of his career, still Hall of Famer Henri Richard. That's the team that St. Louis faced in the Stanley Cup final. An expansion team in St. Louis that finished below 500 in the regular season got swept by these guys, but every game was by 1 goal. So you can look at this Stanley Cup final and say, well, an expansion team made it there that year, but they were underdogs even against the other expansion teams, and they ran into a huge steamroller in the Montreal Canadiens of the late 60s. So basically, yes, this was one of those 3 times that a expansion team made it somewhere. But this lineup, while they had 4 Hall of Famers in their lineup, there were 8 in the Montreal lineup, and at least 1 or 2 other guys in that lineup in 1968 who long-term hockey fans will say should be in there. People who talk about who should or shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. There are other members of that late 80s Habs run or late 60s Habs run. People will want to see them in there eventually. But it's an interesting thing to look at. I figured that with Vegas making it to the Stanley Cup Finals today, this might be the perfect time to look back at what St. Louis did. And it was impressive. It's their first year, but it's completely different than what Vegas Golden Knights have done in 2018. 50 years after, these guys did it. being third in the West, Vegas being first in the Pacific. Like I said, it's apples and oranges, but I'm doing this video now because the comparison's out there and people are making it a lot. So there you go. The next time you hear it on TSN or Sportsnet or ESPN or anywhere else, keep this in mind. Just grain of salt. Thank you guys so much for watching, though. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through and you just happened upon this video. And this is an exciting time for hockey that we're back talking about the 1968 St. Louis Blues. So the Blues 50 years later are still looking for that first Stanley Cup. And it just shows that when you get there in your first year, do whatever you got to do to win it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.